Oh, you got her, dude. She's down. Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another week of our Fall Obsession Podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Once again, I'm Sam with Fall Obsession, hosting you guys for this week's podcast episode. And joining me this week, once again, is our good friend and one of our very own pro staffers, Brendan Scott. Welcome back on the podcast, buddy.
Hey, thanks, man. I'm glad to be here again. Always a good time.
Yes, sir. Always a good time. If you guys haven't checked out any of our recent episodes, or somewhat, but not somewhat recent, Brendan has been on the podcast before. Here recently, he came on to discuss his spring turkey season, which was a pretty cool episode. And then also our second most downloaded podcast episode 54, is when he came on to talk about last year's do-it-yourself Colorado elk hunt on public land that he did. It was a successful hunt. It's a really cool story, really entertaining story, and a lot of awesome information in that. Again, that's episode 54 of our podcast. So if you haven't given that one a listen yet, go back and check it out. But today, we have another story or hunt experience that we're going to recap, and that is your 2021 spring Montana bear hunt, which was also your first bear hunt that you've ever been on, from my understanding. Is that right, Brendan?
Yes, sir. Yep. First time to go to Montana. First time to plan a bear hunt. And there's a lot of firsts on this trip. So.
All right. Well, we alluded to it in your turkey hunt podcast that we were going to talk about this, so here we are to dive in and break this one down again, and hopefully have some educational information for a lot of our listeners and an entertaining story to go with it. But I guess a good place to start is talking about what made you decide on Montana to go spring bear hunting, because there's a lot of places that you could go spring bear hunting in North America. What made you settle on Montana for your first ever bear hunt?
Well, I've actually had a Canadian bear hunt booked for the last 2 years. It's been booked for 3 years now. I was supposed to go in 2020, and then COVID hit, shut the border down. So that didn't happen. And so this year came around, we'll just go to Canada. Still didn't open up. So I said, I'm going bear hunting no matter what this year. I'm tired of not going. I've always wanted to go. So it was supposed to be an archery hunt in Canada, but I started looking around like, well, let's be real. And it's tough. If you talk to anybody, no one just says it's easy to do a spot and stalk bear hunt in the mountains, no matter where you're going. And so I looked at it more as, I've never been to Montana. They have bears. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. I've always wanted to go Montana, so why not Montana? Look at it more as the trip more than a hunt. So but we started looking into Montana and seeing that it was actually, so you can buy a tag over the counter in Montana, and it's good for the entire state, which is pretty awesome to me. So
yeah.
So I mean, in Idaho, they have draw units, and then you have certain over the counter units, and it just seemed better to me to go for Montana, where we could go anywhere. So if plan A don't work, we had B, C, D, we had everything lined up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a good thing to do. It's the same with their, and just going off of my own experience, the same with their archery pronghorn tag. Their 920 tag is good for the whole state. So another tag, and we've talked about that on other podcasts. I'm not turning this into a pronghorn podcast, but that's another tag that up there in Montana can cover the whole state. So they have a lot of good opportunities like that. So excellent. It's a good thing to look out for and to take into consideration when you're trying to set up a hunt for sure.
Definitely.
So first spring bear hunt, the hopes of the Canadian hunt, but that didn't happen yet. So Montana it is. What kind of research did you do? What kind of planning did you do to prep yourself both for the location you're going, the gear that you had, all that good stuff, and the location for sure, because like you just said, you got the whole state to choose from. What did you do to make sure your gear was good and you were prepared, and what made you choose the spot that you went to in Montana?
So we at first we had actually planned on a totally different area. We were going to go up by Kalispell, which is it's like the famous place in Montana, I should say, for like bear hunting, and that's where everyone goes. That's where 90% of the outfitters are, it seems like. I mean, it's just the bears are there. They're just pressured really, really hard.
Yeah.
And it was kind of I did a lot of I used OnX a lot and actually found a couple of spots up there that I liked. But I decided to do something a little different this year, and I'm on Facebook. I'm a member of several different groups, like bear hunting groups, and then I went and added some Montana hunting groups. And I actually started messaging just random people and telling them, that I was from Oklahoma, understand if they don't, want to give any information or have any information, but anything they would be willing to give, I'd love to hear. And had a lot of different people point me towards the Little Belts, which actually is one of the few spots that's just a general season tag for elk. So I thought that it'd be cool because, as I'm still bear hunting, and we could scout for elk too while we're up there.
Yeah.
So our plans kind of changed. We found a spot on OnX that looked like it would be really good. Put a lot of our eggs in that basket. OnX, like I said, OnX, it looked real good from the maps, but it's a whole lot different looking at a map and then getting to a place, not only just an area you've never been, but an entire state you've never even been.
Right.
So we put all of our eggs in that basket and headed up there, and we actually we got there, spent 2 days in that spot, didn't see a single bear. I mean, and we're not just talking about some little spot. We were moving. We were hiking 6 to 10 miles a day, and we were always moving. And if we didn't see any sign in that area, then we'd move. We'd drive 10, 15 miles to another spot that we had marked on OnX that we thought would be good. And we did this for a couple of days, and just it was not working. We started talking to locals. I mean, we go to the convenience store and to get fuel or something, and we'd ask them, "Hey, do you guys ever see any bears? Like where the bears at?" And and we found out that this was from several different people, and another big thing that I found in my research was, for spring bear, you have to find green. They come out of their hibernation and they eat as much green grass as they can. They don't want to move very far either because of their paws. They're not used to walking around. They've been asleep for several months.
Right. So
they like to stick to the green grass. They eat the green grass until they get their digestive system going. Then they'll start eating meat and stuff. So the issues we were finding, and the reason we weren't finding any bears where we were the first couple days, is because, so from talking to the locals, they said this is the weirdest spring they've had since they can remember. So I guess in Montana this year, they said it didn't even really get cold until February. They didn't get their first snow until February.
Wow.
So, and then it got cold late and it stayed cold longer. So actually, a lot of the places we were hunting, we were only like 7,000 feet and it was still snow.
Huh.
So it was tough to find any green whatsoever.
Yeah.
We were just having a real hard time finding green, finding any grass, finding any bears, finding any bear sign. We went like 5 days before we seen our first bear. I mean, it was tough, real tough.
Wow.
And talking to several locals, they hadn't been seeing bears. I called a wildlife biologist, and He gave me some good information. You know, he told where he's started seeing some bears, but said the same thing. You know, yeah, it's been so cold. I mean, he didn't think a lot of them had even been waking up yet, and we didn't go early. The season opens April 15th, and we went like May. I think we left May the 12th or something like that. So we gave it, you know, almost a solid month, thinking that, you know, that would be enough time for everything to green up, for the bears to get up and about. And that just wasn't the case this year. So every place that we found in this one mountain range, which is the Little Belts, it was just a bust. There was no green grass. And we were driving 2 hours a day to different areas trying to find something, you know.
Wow.
And we couldn't find them down low. We couldn't find them up high. It was catastrophic.
Wow. Yeah, definitely not something that you expect or really, obviously nobody experienced or not experienced hosting it have a situation like that, but obviously not something that you were banking on for your first time bear hunting. So.
Oh yeah, definitely not. Yeah, I didn't feel quite so bad knowing that all these guys that live in Montana and hunt there, you know, their entire lives weren't even having any luck. So it was like, well, I guess I feel a little bit better now. But still, it was like, man, we're just getting our butts kicked.
So was there ever was that kind of just the verdict and how the trip went, or as far as spotting bears or finding bears, or was there a turning point at any time?
No, we finally we decided we looked at the bear density maps, and I had several different, like I said, plan C, D, E, all out to where it didn't matter if we were going to have to drive 10 hours. We were going to keep moving, keep trying to find bears. 'Cause that's the one thing that the game warden told us was just keep on moving. You know, if you don't see a bear here, if you don't see a bear in an evening, most likely they're not there. Because they say every single evening they're going to be out in the same place every single night.
Huh.
So we didn't see a bear, and so we just kept on going. And finally, we did. At this point, we had 4 days left of our hunt. So we were over halfway done, and we thought, man, we gotta do something big. Like, this mountain range isn't doing it for us, and it's not just a little mountain range. Like I said, we had been working our butts off, trying to even find sign of a bear. And we said, well, let's pick up camp, move to this other mountain range, which is it was probably about a 3-hour drive. And so we pick up camp and we go over there and we actually find green grass. So everything's already looking up. So we set up our camp and we hunt real hard, and we still aren't seeing any bears, but we're seeing green grass. So
Yeah.
we're watching we're still moving around a lot in this mountain range, on the back side of it, on the south side of it, which is what they say. One big thing that you want to do is south facing slopes are the first to green up, just because the sun and all that. So we're finding a lot of green grass, but it's real low, like 4,000 feet. And we're still not seeing any bears at all. But actually, we went out for a hunt one afternoon or one morning, and we get back to camp, and this older guy pulls up on a razor, and he says, "You guys bear hunting?" We said, "Yeah." He's like, "If you have any luck?" We told him, "No, it's finally finding some green and some flowers, some wildflowers, but we're still not finding any bears." And he said, "Well, I actually just came. I've rode 40 miles today, and I think you guys need to come over here." He says, "If I was you, I would pack up your camp right now." He said, "I just came from there. There was no one in there. I would pack up your camp right now and book it over there." So we went in to where he said, and just like, we weren't having no luck. This guy seemed like a good guy. So we just did what he said. We didn't have nothing to lose.
Yeah, you didn't have anything to lose. Yeah.
Yeah. So we pack up and throw everything in the truck, haul boat over there, and set up our camp. And it did look good over there. And that night we actually climbed. I think we climbed up to 9,000 feet, and it was so snowy. It was miserable, honestly. It's snowing on us. I mean, it's you have no visibility. It was something, all right. We get back to camp and we are just soaking wet. We have to get all of our clothes dry and everything. So then the next morning we found a spot on Onyx, which is probably about a 6 mile hike from where we were. So we hike all the way in there, and it looks good, like real good. We watch it all day long, and actually finally found a bear. Right, probably about an hour before dark, we see him. We see him for probably 5 minutes, and he disappears. And he's over a mile away. And he's big, like you can tell, like he's a good bear.
Yeah.
So I told Spencer, I'm like, you think we should pack? Should we book it over there? You know, and everyone says that if you see a bear, he'll be there again. And so we decided we would wait and try to get him the next day. So we waited, came back that next day, and he wasn't in the same spot, but he was in a similar spot. So we worked our way around to where he was, and we couldn't. At first, our first plan was to try to get up over the top of him to where we could be a lot closer. The problem is the wind changes so much up there that we didn't want to risk blowing him out before we even seen him.
Right.
So we get up there, and sure enough, he comes back out that evening, and we had sat there all day long. I mean, we got up there. We left camp at 4:00 in the morning, hiked all the way up in there, and just waited and sat there all day long. You know, had brought our food and our lunches and all that stuff. Didn't see a single bear all day long until finally, like that last 15 minutes of light, and by then there was nothing we could do. Anyways, he was just too far. You couldn't move that far enough time.
Yeah.
So we pack out. The next morning, it is just a blizzard.
Oh, man.
I mean, we lost an entire day to snow. I mean, it snowed like 8 inches on us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was not a little snow. So we pretty much just hung out, and we went and did some driving, it's just to see if we went back to another mountain range. It was like a 2-hour drive, but we still nothing, there was nothing out in it, but we drove that far. We were wanting to, it's a chance.
Yeah.
Not a good one.
Yeah. Again, you got nothing to lose on a day like that. So
yeah, exactly. So still nothing. So that next day we get up. It was still snowing that next morning, and we didn't want to. It was going to be hard to get where we were because we had, like I said, it was probably a 6 mile walk back in there to where we knew that bear was. So our plan was I had my base camp stuff, but then again, I also brought all my backpacking stuff. So the plan was to try that evening or that afternoon, we were going to take, since it was so tough to get in there because of all the snow, we figured, well, why not just make it a day thing and try to get in there and get a base camp or get just a backpack camp, a spike camp set up. So that was the plan. Well, wouldn't you know it, it decided it was going to snow again. So on this day,
Man.
We did the same thing. We were going to go try to find, just go explore and see what we could see. And as luck would have it, that was going to be the last day we got to bear hunt, because we did see a bear as we're driving, and me getting so excited, I decided to look away from the road, and so where the spot is, we're coming down this down just an old mountain, like an old logging road, and we see the bear, and it's just like in a little break of the snow. The bear's probably 400 yards away, and I just look away from the road for a split second, and about that time the road curved back real hard, and we went off the side of the mountain. Well, it wasn't really like the side of the mountain as much as like that makes it sound really extreme. It was probably like a 15-foot.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, enough that we totaled the truck that day.
Oh my word. Holy cow.
So, as fate would have it, that was going to be the last day. It wasn't the end of our adventure, to say the least, but we have no. So we wrecked the truck. Airbags go off. The entire the front end is just trashed. There's no way. Like it's done. So we both look at our phones. None of us have service.
Oh no.
So, and it's cold. Like I said, it's by this time the snow fires back up. It's windy. It becomes to be like a blizzard. And we had our hunting stuff, but that's it, you know. So
Yeah.
we start walking, and we walk like a mile and a half. We get to this house, thinking, oh, thank goodness, you know, maybe no one's home. So we walk
And I'm
down the road.
I'm assuming y'all are okay after driving off a 15-foot drop.
Yeah, it hit hard. Don't get me wrong. Like I hit my head on the steering wheel so hard that it cracked my glasses.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, it was we were lucky. If I wouldn't have been going so slow, because you know we weren't hauling butt.
Right.
We were probably going 15 to 20 miles an hour. We were just, you know, glassing, looking, and we seen that bear, and I looked away too long, and that's what happened. But if we would have been going any faster, we would have rolled it, because it was really steep. And I think if we'd have rolled it, we probably both would have died, honestly, because we didn't have seat belts on. I mean, when you're just driving that slow, looking, you know, you never have your seat belt on. So
Man.
didn't have seat belts on, and
Oh
it was
my
lucky.
gosh.
It could have been a lot worse.
Man, and it's funny, like you telling the story, and when I say this, Drew Tordick, our marketing manager, when he listens to this, he's gonna laugh. But when we went up there in 2019 to hunt pronghorn, he took us up this one little mountain, and it was muddy and slick, and I forget which of the two trucks that we dealt with that trip we were in. We had 4-wheel drive, but we were sliding and slipping all over the place, and it was drops like that. It was 15, 20, 25 foot drops just straight down off the side of these roads that were sliding all over. And myself and Chester that we were with, we were holding on for dear life, and we were super nervous, super scared that Drew was about to drive us off that freaking mountain. And so thankfully he didn't. But you just lived my nightmare that day. That's what I'm thinking of. I don't even want to think about that. That's.
Well, let me tell you, you missed out on a good story. I can tell you that much.
I would hope that I'd be there to tell this story. I'm
sure,
glad
yeah.
you are. So.
Oh yeah. Me and Spencer looked at each other. I said, "You all right?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah." And we were way more bummed about. I mean, the truck. We knew the truck was probably done, and we knew it was going to be a royal pain in the butt to get home now, because we are an hour and a half away from our camp.
Yeah.
And we have no vehicle. We have no phone service. Not only that, how are we? Okay, and we are. This isn't just. So the truck that I wrecked. I mean, it was set up for going in sketchy places, to say the least. I had, you know, a 6-inch lift and that stuff just to get over a lot of rocks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we crossed 11 creeks getting in to where we set up our base camp.
Oh wow.
It was made for razors and stuff to get in there. It wasn't made for a pickup.
Wow.
So we crossed 11 creeks to get in there. Like, it was going to be a miracle, honestly, just to figure out how to get our stuff out.
Oh man.
And we looked at each other and we knew the hunt was over at that time, and we both were just really bummed. And I mean, that was, we knew we were okay, so it was all good, but it was still it just kind of set in, like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. And which we kind of knew. We were down to the last 2 days anyways. In the last 2 days, of course, it did nothing but snow anyway. So in all reality, we wouldn't have killed a bear. I mean, if we would have, maybe, but
Yeah.
the chances were not, the odds are not in our favor.
Well, I mean, you saw one right before you drove off the mountain, so
That's true. That's very true. Maybe that would have been the bear.
maybe that was it.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, definitely. But
So
most likely, it probably wasn't going to happen. So
Yeah.
we were still really bummed, but it was like,
all right, so you walk. I think you said 1.5 miles or so. You find a house. Nobody's home. Then what?
we walk about luckily probably another 200-300 yards after that, and we finally got service. So I texted my at the time fiance, told her what was going on, and the best part is this is literally like a week and a half before our wedding, so she's really freaking out. Like, you're gonna have a black eye for the wedding? Are you kidding me? Like, she's all like freaking out, and it. We finally get service. I tell her, and then, I told her what happened, and she freaked out. She thought, like, you drove off a mountain. I wouldn't be calling you if I was dead. I mean, we're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I call my dad, and I told him, and see, every time I go on a hunting trip, my dad, if I call him, he knows that it's because I got something. So I call my dad, and the first thing he says, did you get one? I said, no. He said, yeah, you did. How big was he? I said, I wrecked my truck. No, you didn't. No, I'm dead serious. I wrecked my truck. How big was he? Did you get one? Like, no, I swear to you, we probably just totaled my truck. Quit messing with me. How big was he? I'm like, Dad, I ain't even playing. Like, this thing's done. So I sent him a picture, and he's like, wow, well, what are you going to do now? He's like, there ain't a whole lot I can do. I mean, I'm 16 hours from you.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I said, I've never even been in a wreck. I don't know what to do. He said, well, insurance is going to need a police report, so call the cops. So we call the cops, and they sent a couple sheriffs and a highway patrol out there, and they get it all pulled out and everything, and the driver's side front wheel falls off the truck. It's pretty comical.
Man.
And I asked the cop, I said, the highway patrol, I said, honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, man, it is really cold. Do you care if I go sit in your car? So me and my buddy go sit in the car and everything. I'm like, well, we could be in the back of a cop car for different reasons. He's like, yeah, I mean,
So what do they use to get the truck out? If you cross that many creeks and are that far back in there, how do they do that?
So the truck, we were at a different mountain range. That was to get to our camp.
Oh, okay.
That was we were just right off. We were on some logging roads just right off of just national forest. It was easy to get in there.
That's good. Okay.
So we called them. They came and got us out, and then luckily the highway patrol took us to a hotel, and can't remember what town. It was kind of a weird town. I can't remember what it was, but took us to the hotel. We stayed in a little Roach Coach Inn, and it called. Well, our first plan was we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. One of our ideas was to rent a truck from Billings and then drive all the way in back to where we were, and then pick up all of our stuff, drive back to Billings, ship all of our stuff, and fly home. But that was going to be extremely tough to do because, like I said, we had a lot of gear. I mean,
yeah.
So finally, Courtney, she was already headed up there to get us at one time, and I was like, no, don't do it, And her dad, which is my father-in-law now, calls and says, you've already turned them around once. They could have already been like 3 or 4 hours down the road. Why don't you just let them come get you? And that was the best thing, honestly. So, yeah, all right. So they drove all night long. They got there at like 2 o'clock the next day. Come pick us up from the hotel. We all went and ate. Still, we're all sad, And
Yeah.
We went to the pickup, and that was the first time we actually really got to look at the pickup because they had it pulled out by then and all that. So we went and looked at the pickup, and we realized, yeah, it's probably totaled. And the tow truck guy was like, yeah, every truck I've seen like this, they've totaled out. So you should probably take all of your belongings and all that. So that's what we did. We unloaded the truck. Then we went into that camp, or to our camp, and it was nothing but it was snowing so hard that day. We couldn't actually even see the mountains until we were in the mountains. That's how bad it was snowing. And I'd been telling Courtney this whole time how beautiful Montana is and stuff. She shows up in a blizzard, and I've been trying to get her talked into moving to Montana, and that didn't do it.
That didn't help you at all.
No, it didn't do it. So we
I guess you'll have to take her back.
that's what I've been saying. So we get in there, and it takes us probably 2 hours to drive in there. Luckily, his truck did make it in there. We get in there and get camp broke down and get out of there. But we drove. We probably could have, they were down to hunt if we wanted to, just that extra night. But it did nothing but snow anyways, so we were like, let's just cut our losses and go.
Yeah, at that point, you're just kind of ready to be done with it too. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were supposed to be there for, I think, 11 days. We ended up being there for 9 anyway. So. Yeah. But it was still a really fun trip because, like I said, it wasn't about killing the bear to me. It was more about seeing all the other animals. We seen that week we were there. I think we counted 300 elk. We probably seen 400 or 500 deer. 3 bears. Not so many bears, and it was still a really good time, and seen some beautiful country. Absolutely. Met some really nice people. I definitely want to go back, just different terms, and I learned a whole lot too. There's a lot of lessons to be said in that. So
yeah. Don't take your eyes off the road, being one.
That's one. That's probably the biggest one. It will ruin your hunt. Unless you're really wanting a new truck, then I guess that's one way to do it. I wouldn't recommend it, though.
Yeah, I guess you did get a new set of wheels out of the deal, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, pre-accident and just, the drastic turn south there, I wanna talk real quick, just kind of about a little bit more specifics on some of the gear that you had set up and what kind of weaponry you were packing for a bear hunt like this, and kind of break some of that stuff down real quick.
Yeah. So, one of the biggest things that I think was really nice is I bought a canvas tent just for this hunt, and I'm really, really glad it's a Kodiak canvas tent. They're not cheap, but they're not really, for a canvas tent, they're pretty affordable, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That thing was awesome. And a couple of those blizzard days, we had wind that was probably, you've been up on the mountains. When it decides it's gonna blow, it blows.
Oh yeah.
We were up there and stayed warm the whole time. It was never leaked one time. And it was big, if we had just been in my backpacking tent the whole time, we would have probably got tired of each other. But it's a 10 by, I think, 16. It's all there, and it was a lifesaver. I can't wait. I'm just glad I have it now to add to my elk hunting and everything else. It's perfect for base camp. And then I brought my backpacking tent, which I always use on all my elk hunts and stuff, which is a Lux Octopeak is what it is. And it's real lightweight. I have a portable stove. It's a titanium stove. I think it weighs, it's like less than a pound. That we were going to use for when we weren't seeing bears. If we were having a real tough time finding bears, we were going to use that and hike in several miles, which was the plan until the snow and stuff hit.
Yeah.
But then I took all my Sitka, which was, like I said, once again, when it was hot, it was hot. Like there was days it was in the 90s. And then when it was cold, it was cold. Cold, blowing snow. There was one evening, the evening we seen that bear the first time, actually, that it started sleeting. And it went from being like 80 degrees out to being like 30. And it was rough. And that's another thing that I can say about the Sitka. Like I said, it's really nice if it in the morning when it's cold, or let's say like that day, that afternoon it was really hot, and then it started cooling off really quick, and that stuff. It just amazes me how it can breathe when it's hot, and then it can keep you warm when it's cold.
No, we got a bunch of guys on staff that use that stuff, and everybody just they love it. It's good stuff. And again,
it's worth the money.
Yeah, and again, you talk about the money, and I know that people. That's always
it's a lot to stomach.
Yeah, it's always a concern and something. But one, it's almost a one-time purchase pretty much, because you buy it, you have it, and you're good to go. And another thing that I think speaks volumes is again we're plugging this product with no sponsorship or anything in place at this time. So Brendan and other guys that use that on our staff are guys who have purchased it with their own money. It's not like they're getting handouts or anything like that. They believe in the product enough to invest in it themselves, and they're seeing results from it. So if you're interested, go check it out. So
heck yeah. Yeah, and I got a review on there too with it too. So on follow-up session. So
I think we actually have yours being one, we have 2 or 3 on there now. So definitely go check out those gear reviews.
Heck yeah. And so that's a big part of what I like to take with me. And then I got my Mystery Ranch backpack. I have the one that I use on my day trips and stuff it's the Pintler. And it's like I can't remember the exact cubic inches, and I want to lie, but it's perfect for whitetail hunting and for just day mountain trips. You can keep as much clothes in there and some food, and it's nice. And it's also got the load shelf too, to where if we would have killed a bear, it would have been great. It would have been really easy to pack out. So I had that, and then I also brought with I have a Beartooth 80, which is, I think it's like over 6,000 cubic inches. I mean, it just clips. I just replaced that Pintler with that one, and it just goes on the same frame. So when we were going to go in there and go backpacking, I could have fit my tent, enough clothes for a couple days, enough food for a couple days. Everything we would need for a couple of days in it. So I had that with me just in case. Then I had my stove and stuff just in case. I had a lot of just in case stuff, but we actually brought so much gear that we had to haul a U-Haul trailer with us.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I like to be over prepared, I guess. You never know and just like when we were there, that we went from 90 degrees to teens. I mean, it was crazy. So it was a good thing we had it all for sure. But all that stuff out, and on hunts like that, another thing I like to do is we will pre-cook our meals a lot of times. So like I have one of those vacuum sealers. So we'll pre-cook meals, and then we'll vacuum seal them and freeze them and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And it works out great, especially when you go like on that day that was really snowy. We got back and we were just really cold and really ready for bed. And it was late getting back. I think we got back at like 1 o'clock in the morning. So we had some vacuum sealed soup, some potato soup that we just boiled some water, dropped it in, and it was good to go.
Good deal.
So really easy. That's one thing that I like to do on trips like that. Had my big Arctic cooler that it's a 145. I like it a lot. That elk that I shot last year, I lost almost a quarter because of the bear, which that's in that podcast. But I was able to fit that entire deboned elk in it. So I mean, you can fit a lot.
Yeah.
But we had that for bears and our hides and stuff. So I think the biggest thing for me, I take my predator calls too, because they say that usually during that time of year, bears will come and running just like a coyote will to a predator call.
Really?
So we tried that a couple of times too. when we weren't having luck at that in the little belts, which still didn't have luck. But I took my predator calls. I think the biggest thing though on this trip that was good to me was that tent, that Kodiak canvas, which I'm going to do a review on it just so everyone can see it and all that. But that thing was a game changer, honestly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I had that, and I brought my my Christensen. I have a Christensen Mesa 300 Win Mag. I'm comfortable out to 400 or 500 yards with it. I mean, real comfortable. So
yeah,
I got a Night Force on it, which really it's a good setup.
Yeah.
So I brought that. I was shooting 180 grain nozzlers, so I knew I was confident, out to 400 yards that if I had an opportunity, it was probably game on. But
yeah. Any backup weaponry?
I did. I actually brought my other 300 Win Mag. I have just a cheap Savage 300 with my I think it's like a Nikon Bushmaster scope. It's just a cheap setup. I think it was one of the first guns I ever bought.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's sighted in. I wouldn't have been taking no 400 yarders with it, but
yeah.
I mean, I had that just because I could run the same ammo out of it. So I brought that, and I actually brought my bow too, because deep down it's probably never going to work out, but you always have that little thought like, man, we're going to be in the bears so thick, we're going to be passing them up, I'm going to be able to get in bow range. So I brought my bow for no reason.
Never know, man. You never know.
That's true. If I wouldn't have brought it, I would have probably had a bear at. Oh, speaking of, this makes me think. Them guys from Montana were telling me the number one way to kill a bear in Montana is not by a tag. So that's the way you'll see him. That's the only way you'll see him.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yep.
The one thing I wanted to harp on with the weaponry and everything is just bear hunting in general. How we've, at least on our podcast here recently, been educated on the importance of having secondary, tertiary weaponry at the ready to go. If you guys haven't listened to episodes 63 and 64, you need to go back and do that. We have a brother and sister who went up to Alaska on a brown bear hunt, and it was 5 yards away from them being killed by this mortally wounded bear and not coming home. It's a podcast worth listening to, but backup weaponry, what little they had, ended up saving them. So whether you have a malfunction and just need another weapon, or whether it gets down to the nitty gritty like they were in, it's very important to, when you're bear hunting, have some options with you ready to go. So
yeah, and I definitely had a sidearm too.
yeah.
Spencer had a Kimber 45, and then I had a 38 special. So
Gotcha.
we were ready to rock just in case.
Yeah.
But luckily never got put in that position. So
Yeah, and I hope nobody does. Nobody wants to be in that position. So
yep. And yeah, I learned the hard way, but I just have a backup weapon too from my elk hunt.
yeah.
Whenever I broke the sights off my bow, and well, there went that. So
Yeah.
same thing, stuff happens. So I was ready just in case we dropped a rifle, or if he dropped his rifle, I had that extra gun ready to go.
Yeah.
So
Good deal. So, first bear hunt in the books. Unfortunately, no bear on the ground. Didn't end the way anybody probably saw it ending. but
definitely not us.
Yeah, for sure. What are your takeaways though? Your biggest takeaways? Any regrets? Things you would have done differently, or as you look to do this again, whenever the next opportunity comes along, things you'll take into consideration then.
I think one of my biggest regrets is that first time we seen that bear. They say the bear will be back, and he was the next day and everything. But I think that if we would have just booked it and tried to get in a range, yeah, we may have blew him out. But at the same time, just maybe, there's a small chance, maybe we could have got on him, and got a shot right before dark.
Yeah.
But then again, if we would have done that, we would have probably blew that bear out of the country, and it wouldn't have snowed for the next 3 days, and we wouldn't have wrecked our trucks, and we probably wouldn't have seen another bear. So there's really no telling how it could have went, but
Yeah.
that'll always be in the back of our minds. And I learned a lot from this. I mean, just from a hunt. I mean, you learn way more whenever you don't harvest an animal than when you do, honestly. And a couple things that I learned from this is, I think next year I'll probably wait a couple more weeks to go until maybe the first week of June or so. A couple reasons being, is, if it is another weird year like it was this year, then that'll give everything more of a chance to green up. More of the bears will be on their feet. And B, that's when the elk calf. I mean, they all calf that time of year. So they say that is the best chance to kill a bear, which we actually started listening to a lot of different bear podcasts on the way up there. And everyone was saying, yeah, a lot of these big outfitters are saying that they might shoot a couple bears before, but 90% of the bears they shoot are during the elk calf. So like, well, that's a big thing that next year we're gonna center our bear hunt around that time. And I think we're gonna specifically hunt, calving areas and stuff like that. Because this year, if we would have been a week later, we would have been in them. Because like I said, we probably seen 300 elk that trip. So I mean, it was almost time, but it just didn't work out. But
Yeah.
that's a big thing. And another thing that I think I would really like to do differently next time is, I think I'm going to go with my gut next year too. We had that first spot planned out. We were going to go to Kalispell. Well, we didn't. And maybe if we would have went with our gut feeling, maybe I wouldn't have wrecked my truck, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know.
A lot of what ifs
Definitely.
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming on and talking about this experience. Again, no bear on the ground, and that's unfortunate, but the reason I want to talk about it is it was your first time doing it, and getting out there and doing stuff like that's how we learn, and sharing that is how other people learn. So I'm hoping that
exactly.
Obviously it benefited you, and hopefully your adventure there will benefit somebody else. And next time you get out there, you'll be able to put one on the ground.
Heck yeah, that's the plan.
For sure. All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up here for this week's podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that follow and subscribe button, whatever app you're listening on. We are on all major podcast platforms, in addition to our website and YouTube. New episodes every single Monday morning with guests like Brendan, who are sharing both... I don't like to say entertaining, because I don't like to think that people just listen to our podcast for the entertainment, but also the educational value of it as well. But obviously you guys need to enjoy it, and if you're listening, then you do. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Continue to do so every Monday morning. FallObsession.com is our website. That is the hub. That's where you guys can go to find all of our content, our video series, wild game recipes, the gear reviews, like what we mentioned earlier in the episode, all sorts of other kind of educational content that we have on there. We have contests and giveaways that come up from time to time. Our apparel, we got some new apparel out for this summer that's been selling pretty quick, so be sure you get in on that with our new American Pride, American flag logo, whatever you want to call it, t-shirt. Those are going pretty quick, so get you one as soon as you can. Be sporting it this summer. FallObsession.com/podcast. That's the podcast page on our website. All of our episodes are on there. You can listen to them from there, or you can fill out the form that we have there to provide some episode feedback. If you have a topic to suggest, or a question to ask, or just general feedback, we take criticism constructively, so shoot us a message over through there. And follow our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're working on getting more frequent videos out there for you guys to watch. Again, a lot of educational value on there, so be sure that you do that. And that's about all I got. Brendan, once again, man, thanks for coming on and sharing your experience.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm sure, hopefully the next time we're on here talking bear hunting, we'll be talking about a successful hunt. So.
Oh, yeah. I can feel it. Maybe I'm still feeling the truck wreck, but I'm feeling something.
Still a little woozy in the head there. All right, guys. Thank you all for listening. We'll catch you guys again next Monday for another Fall Obsession podcast episode.